Hey everyone, Teo here. Today I'm reviewing the XPPen Artist 15.6 Pro V2 pen display. First of all, disclaimer, this is a review unit provided by the company, and in this video I'll just present to you my findings so that you can decide whether this is worth the money. This is the XPPen online store. By the way, this is not a touch screen. So at the time of review, the price of this pen display is US $304, and this includes 18 months of warranty. And this is the second model, V2, which was released towards the end of 2024. The first model, the previous model, was released in 2019, so that's almost 5-6 years ago, and it's still selling on their website for US $248. By the way, if you have any intention of buying this pen display or any pen display, consider supporting my YouTube channel by making your purchase through the affiliate links in the video description below. I get to earn some commission for each sale through those links, but at no extra cost to you, and your support allows me to make more video reviews like the one you're watching right now. Alright, as usual, let me give you the bottom line up front. This is a good pen display. The design still looks good even though it's the same design from 5-6 years ago. Build quality is solid. This is a well-made pen display. Color accuracy is good. I measured color support for 99% sRGB, 94% Adobe RGB. There are 8 hotkeys by the side, and this dial, they are useful if you prefer to have hotkeys and controls on the display. The USB-C video connection is convenient because this minimizes cable clutter, and it is possible to power this pen display to maximum brightness with one single USB-C video connection. Or you can use HDMI connection as well. This pen display uses the X3 Pro Smart Chip Stylus, which is the same pen that's used by the XPPen Artist Pro Gen 2 series pen displays. So this pen supports tilt and up to 16,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. Even though the name of this product is the Artist 15.6 Pro V2, the display size is actually 15.4 inches. The resolution is 1920 by 1080 and refresh rate is 60 Hz. So the aspect ratio for this pen display is 16:9. And this 15.4 inch size is a good size to work with for drawing. There is a matte screen protector already applied on the display, and this screen protector provides some feedback when you're drawing, but the overall experience I would say is still on the smoother side, so the texture is not exactly like paper. Matte textured surfaces usually will introduce some grain, color noise, or anti-glare sparkle to affect image quality. But on this pen display, all that is kept to a minimal, so the visual quality of this display is still quite good. There is slight pixelation with the 1080p resolution, but it's not really an issue. If you want a display with higher resolution, XPPen does sell pen displays with higher resolutions at higher prices. Downsides, there is just one main downside. How you can achieve maximum brightness for this pen display will depend on which OS and which driver version you use. And the advertised brightness for this display is 250 nits. So for Windows, I had to use driver version 4.0.6 to get this display settings option, which is visible here but not visible with other driver versions. So with display settings, I can set the color temperature to user, and this will unlock maximum brightness. So after color calibration, I was able to measure 224 nits of maximum brightness. If you are using a driver that does not have the display settings option, that does not have this feature or function, you will not be able to unlock maximum brightness, and the maximum brightness in that case will be around 154 nits. So for the Mac driver, there is no display settings option. So for Windows, you have this option, but you have to use the driver version 4.0.6. This pen display is laminated but the glass has some thickness, so when drawing, there is still a little gap between the line and the pen tip. Parallax is not really an issue with this display size, and with pen calibration, you can remove parallax almost completely. Drawing experience is fantastic because the pen is accurate and sensitive. The pen performance is predictable and consistent. Even though the line test shows some slight diagonal line wobble, but when I'm drawing, I don't see that issue. So my drawing experience on this pen display is more than satisfactory. So those are the pros and cons. This display looks good and the pen works well. So for US $305, that is quite reasonable for a pen display of this size with this pen performance. So in my opinion, this pen display does provide good value for money. Alright, on to the full review. Let's take a look at the items included with the purchase. The packaging box has been updated with new graphics, and look out for V2. I am going to take out everything first. So this is the cardboard that separates the pen display from the accessories beneath, and everything is neatly packed. Inside the box you will find a tablet stand. This is an 11.5 watt wall charger with USB-A port, and these are the interchangeable plugs. Quick start guide, warranty policy, installation guide that tells you that the pen display needs to be connected to a computer or an Android tablet. USB-A to USB-C cable. This is a charging cable. And USB-A to USB-A female extension cable for the charging cable. USB-C to USB-C video cable. The pen case with the pen inside. One artist glove and one microfiber cleaning cloth. The 3-in-1 cable that supports HDMI is included, but this is packed in a separate box. Let's take a closer look at the pen case with its cylindrical design. So the pen nibs are on this side. 8 replacement pen tips are included, and that's the nib remover in the center. There's a warning here that tells you not to twist off the pen cap and not to drop the pen case from height. So at the other end we have the XPPen X3 Pro pen. So this pen supports tilt and 16,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. The build quality is quite solid. It's a well-made pen with a big silicone grip here, and this feels quite comfortable to hold. There are 2 side buttons and 1 eraser at the back. Now this pen is not powered by battery, so no charging is required. The pen tip is quite firm and has minimal movement when in contact with the drawing surface. This pen case is designed to be stored vertically because there is rubber padding on each side. If you store it horizontally, this is going to roll off the table. And this is the tablet stand, which is made with plastic. The build quality is good enough. It does not feel flimsy. This is matte textured. There are rubber padding areas here, here, and here, and a little latch here to hold a pen display. So when you push out this part, you will be able to deploy this stand at this angle, just one angle. There are rubber feet here, 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 and here, actually here as well, so 5 rubber feet. And this is quite stable on the table. When the tablet stand is folded, it's quite thin, so you can transport this together with the pen display quite easily, and I like this handle here. So this is the XPPen Artist 15.6 Pro V2, and this sticker here has all the contact information should you require any support from the company. And on this sticker, it says that you should remove the protective film that's on the matte screen protector before you use the pen display. So when you peel off the protective film on the matte screen protector, make sure you do not peel off the matte screen protector. So this is the glossy reflective protective film that you should peel off. The pen display actually has a matte drawing surface. Now as you peel this off, check to make sure that the surface of the display is matte textured. It's not reflective. So just peel off a bit to check first, and if it's glossy and reflective, paste it back and peel it off again. And if you still find that it's reflective, you can stick some scotch tape at the other side and peel from the other side instead. So let me show you the difference. That's the matte texture display, and below is the glossy reflective protective film. The three main differences between the XPPen Artist 15.6 V2 versus the Artist Pro 16 Gen 2 are: this is using a matte screen protector, but the Gen 2 series pen displays are using matte glass. So with matte screen protectors, with usage, they may develop scratches, there is going to be wear and tear. And if I am not wrong, you can actually buy replacement matte screen protectors from XPPen to replace the matte screen protector when it's really worn out. But replacing a matte screen protector on a big display is not easy if you want to avoid having bubbles underneath the matte screen protector. The other difference is this pen display has hotkeys and a dial, but the Gen 2 series do not have the hotkeys. And the third difference is the aspect ratio of this pen display is 16:9. But for the Gen 2, at least for the Artist Pro 14 and Artist Pro 16 pen displays, they have 16:10 aspect ratio, which is actually a main selling feature for me. The Artist Pro 16 Gen 2 comes with a shortcut remote, and the price of this is $479 US. And for the Artist 15.6 Pro V2 is $303 or $4 US. So the price difference is around 170 over US, which is quite significant. One huge advantage of the Artist Pro 16 Gen 2 is this has more resolution. This has 2560 by 1600 resolution, so the visuals will look noticeably sharper. And currently the XPPen Artist Pro 14 Gen 2 is selling at around $300 US. Now between this versus the Artist 15.6 Pro V2, I may prefer the Artist Pro 14 simply because this has the 16:10 aspect ratio. But the drawing surface area here is going to be smaller. This 15.6 Pro V2 will have around 70% larger drawing surface area. Let's take a closer look at the design of this pen display. So the dimensions are 44.3 centimeters by 28 centimeters, and the drawing surface area is 34.1 centimeters by 19.2 centimeters. So this is a 15.6 inch pen display. The build quality feels quite solid to me. I do not have the first version with me to compare, so I can't tell you whether the build quality has improved, but this feels pretty solid to me. There is this matte textured plastic frame around the display. The corners are rounded off, all the edges are beveled, so the finishing is quite good. This pen display comes with 8 hotkeys, and the clicking feedback is quite firm. That's the red dial in the middle, and all these hotkeys and the dial are customizable. On the back, there are 2 big pieces of rubber padding and 2 smaller ones, and this is matte textured plastic. Weight of this pen display is 1 kg, 444 grams. On this side, we have a power button, brightness control buttons. This USB-C port is for video connection, and this other USB-C port is for power. The USB-C video port is inside this hole here, so in the future, if you need to replace your USB-C cable, you need to find a cable with a connector that is small enough to go inside this hole, or you can just buy a replacement cable from XPPen. Now I happen to have my own USB-C cable here, and this can actually go inside, thankfully. And you can see the power is on. In case you don't know, a pen display is actually a monitor, and many people will call this a tablet as well because it's so thin. But you have to know that there is no built-in battery and there is no OS, so you have to connect this to a computer in order to use this, in order to draw on it. Let's look at the two types of connections possible. So right now I have the pen display connected to my laptop using this USB-C video cable. So this pen display supports USB-C video connection with a USB-C video cable that is provided. And it is possible to power the pen display with this single cable. If you are using a laptop, this is going to drain the laptop battery quite quickly. So it would be good to, connect a laptop to power as well. If you're using a desktop, then it doesn't matter because the desktop is already connected to power. Okay, the other connection is HDMI. So when you have the 3-to-1 cable, the USB-C connector will go to the pen display. The HDMI will go to the computer. There is a USB-A port which will go to the computer so that you get data connection so that the pen can work. And the last cable will go to power so that the pen display can be powered. If your laptop cannot power the pen display using this single USB-C video connection, you will have to connect the pen display to additional power using the included power cable and power adapter. Let's talk about the display. There is no mention whether this pen display is color calibrated at the factory, but from what I can see, the colors look alright out of the box. Since I use multiple displays for work, I always color calibrate my displays so that I can see consistent colors across all the displays that I use. So I'm going to color calibrate this display as well using my Spider X2 color calibrator. So let's open the driver. If you do not have a physical color calibrator, then you may have to color calibrate the display manually using your eye, and that's not going to be very accurate. So the color calibrator measured 99% sRGB, 92% NTSC, 94% OTB-RGB, which is pretty good, and 95% P3. So the color support and the color accuracy of this pen display is considered to be quite good. For Windows users who want to color calibrate the display manually, you have to use the driver. And under display settings, you can adjust the brightness, the contrast, RGB, and color temperature. For Mac users, you have to use the display calibrator assistant provided by Mac OS. How you can achieve maximum brightness will depend on which OS and which driver version you use. And this is the Windows driver version 4.0.6. This Windows driver has the display settings function. So right now I have increased the brightness using the button to 100%, but the display is actually not running at maximum brightness. So notice how the brightness will change as I switch from 6500 to user. Notice the increase in brightness. For some reason, the Mac driver does not have this display settings function. By the way, I did not test all the available Mac drivers. But for Windows, I tested 4.0, 0.6, 0.7, and 0.8, and only 0.6 has this function. If you cannot set the color temperature adjustment to user, the maximum brightness of this display is going to be around 154 nits from what I have measured. So for Mac users, that's the maximum brightness you can get from this display. For Windows users, you can use the correct version of the driver with this function, set it to user, and you can get up to 224 nits of brightness. 224 nits of brightness to me is bright enough for this bright room that I'm in right now. This is how the display looks from extreme viewing angles. I don't see much color shift, and there is some drop in brightness, but it's not a big deal because most of the time you'll be looking at the display straight on. This is how the anti-glare looks, and you can still see the content behind the anti-glare, the diffuse reflection, so it's not too bad. The display is laminated, but there is some thickness to the glass, So here you can see there is a little gap between the line and the pen tip. That little gap may contribute to parallax, but after pen calibration, parallax should not be an issue. Overall, the visuals to me look sharp enough, but if you look close, yes, you can see slight pixelation. All matte textured surfaces will introduce some grain, color noise, or anti-glare sparkle, and there is some color noise on this pen display, but it's not too distracting. Actually, it's quite minimal. I am happy to say that the visual quality of the display is not affected much by the matte screen protector, so the visuals still look pretty sharp and the colors look good. Let's see how big this display is when compared to A4 size paper. Just ignore the spiral area here because the A4 size is up to this white line. So from what I can see, the display is wider by this much and slightly shorter. So the drawing area you can get with this 15.6-inch display is almost A4 size. So this is considered a big enough surface area for drawing. It's a comfortable size for drawing. And now let's see what you can do with the driver. So this is the macOS driver version 4.0.8. The Windows driver should have similar functionality, except there is this additional feature called Windows Ink, which you may have to enable or disable for troubleshooting if pressure is not working as expected. And XPPen has also provided Linux drivers as well. For Mac users, if for some reason the driver does not load when you start your Mac, you have to open the driver manually. And once the driver is in the dock here, right-click, go to Options, have it open at Login. Alright, let's take a look at the different sections on the left side. So this is where you can customize the 8 hotkeys and the dial. So just roll over to the hotkey you want to customize, tap on it, and this pop-up box will appear. You can input your own keyboard shortcuts. You can choose from all these different mouse control options. You can use these pre-programmed shortcuts. And since I use dual displays, I will usually set one of the hotkeys or the pen set button to switch monitor so that I can move the cursor from one display to the other and back here. And you can use the hotkeys to run or start certain applications as well, certain apps. Let's escape. And let's go to the dial here. So for the dial, you can only choose from like these options. For the dial, you can configure it with 4 different functions, and these are the pre-programmed shortcuts or functions: zoom, brush size, scroll, and rotate. If you want to input your own keyboard shortcut, you can do so. Just tap on the option, click customize, and you can input your keyboard shortcut for the clockwise and anti-clockwise action. To switch between the 4 functions, you have to press one of the hotkeys, and in this case it's the one at the bottom. So when you press the switch function shortcut, there will be a pop-up box that appears at the bottom to show you which function you are currently using. Now this dial does not have a button in the middle to press, unlike other pen displays that I have tested. This rotate shortcut may not work with all drawing apps, and for drawing apps where the rotation shortcut does not support keyboard shortcuts, you will not be able to set keyboard shortcuts to rotate because there are no keyboard shortcuts for the rotation. Next, let's have a look at the pen. So this is where you can customize the pressure curve. You can select from the pre-programmed curves, or you can drag the 3 control points to create your own custom pressure curve. You can test here. You can enable or disable pressure sensitivity and tilt, and you can use the pen as a mouse, in which case it will push the cursor around rather than have the cursor track under the pen tip. And these are the options under settings. So once you have configured your hotkeys, you may want to save your hotkeys out. as an external file so that you can have a backup. The last thing I want to say is it is possible to create groups of shortcuts for specific apps that you use. For example, you can tap here, plus, and look for an app that you use. Let's say Adobe Illustrator, which I have added here. So select that app, create those shortcuts for Adobe Illustrator, select or add another app, let's say Photoshop, and create shortcuts for Photoshop. So the next time you launch Adobe Illustrator, all the shortcuts will load automatically for Illustrator, and when you switch over to Photoshop, all the Photoshop shortcuts will load automatically when Photoshop is active. Oh, I totally missed these two buttons here at the bottom. So we have the calibration button. If the pen cursor is not aligned directly to the bottom of the pen tip, you can calibrate the pen. Just click on the crosshair and this should align the pen tip to the bottom of the pen so that there is no cursor misalignment. And for work area, this is how you can map the display, the working area to your desktop area. And I usually leave this as default since it works fine at default settings. If you are left-handed, you can choose to flip the work area 180 degrees. After the 180 degrees flip, the hotkeys will be on the right side so that you can draw with your left hand and use the hotkeys with your right hand. Time for the line test, and the app that I'm using here is XPPen Paint, and as you can see, you can use this pen for writing, and the writing performance is actually quite good, as in this tablet and the pen is able to capture my handwriting style quite accurately. Let's test the initial activation force. So I'm going to draw thin lines, thin diagonal lines, and I'm going to hold the pen from the back so that it's easier for me to draw with minimal pressure. I'm barely applying any pressure and the lines are quite thin. In fact, the pen is so sensitive that if I press down ever so slightly, the lines will look quite thick. And now I'm going to draw some straight lines with the help of this straight edge. And I'm going to draw the lines slowly. So the lines look pretty straight to me. Maybe there is micro jitter, but this looks pretty straight to me. If I draw with freehand, this looks quite straight as well. Let's see how the lines taper, and the lines are able to taper quite smoothly and sharply. Let's zoom in. Yep. This is nice. So if you want to, you can use this to create cross-hatching. Let's zoom out. Line transition from thin to thick, and back to thin, and thick, and thin, and thick. So this is very good pressure performance because you can still draw very thin lines after drawing thick lines. Not all digital styluses can do this. So this pen is very sensitive. And let's see if we can maintain consistent line width by maintaining consistent pressure. Yes, I can do so. And notice there is some latency. So you can see the line trying to catch up with the pen tip. But it's not the annoying kind of latency. So this is not going to affect my drawing experience. Let's draw some dots, small ones and big ones with pressure. And the last test is the cursor misalignment test, where I will draw separate lines and then join the lines by looking at where the pen tip is, not where the cursor is, to see if I can join the lines without any overshooting and also without any gaps. And also notice as I draw these lines, you can see the thin and thick line variation, which is to say that this pen is very sensitive. So I don't see any lines overshooting like this or gaps. So there are no issues with cursor misalignment. Anyway, if there is cursor misalignment, you can use the driver to calibrate the pen so that the cursor is always underneath the pen tip. Even at the extreme edge, you can see the cursor is directly beneath the pen tip. And this is the left edge. And this is the right edge. I can see the cursor stray a few pixels to the right side of the pen tip, but I'm still able to click the scroll bars, the arrows, and the buttons without any issues. I'm holding the pen vertically right now, and I'm going to tilt the pen to see if the cursor will stray away from the pen tip. So this is vertical, and now I'm holding the pen at 45 degrees. Back to vertical. So there is minimal movement with the cursor away from the pen tip, and this is much lower. If you tilt really low, yes, the cursor will move away from the pen tip, but at 45 degrees, which is good enough for tilt brushes, the cursor is still under the pen tip. So this is quite accurate. Let's look at tilt performance. So this app is Krita, and as I turn the pen, notice the cursor following the direction of the pen. So let me just draw a very simple circle, and it's a very smooth circle without any stutter or disruption. So this is good. Let me undo. So let's have a broad stroke here, a thin stroke, broad, thin. Let's have the darker shade on the right side, darker shade on the left side. So tilt works fine. And now I'm going to draw something quickly while I talk more about the drawing experience. So the app that I'm using is XPPen Paint on Windows. The matte screen protector does provide this nice tactile drawing experience, but the pen is still quite smooth on the screen protector, so the texture is not exactly paper-like. It's smooth, it allows the pen to glide smoothly, and after a while, at least for me, I am able to get used to it quite quickly because I'm used to drawing on smoother displays. This size, this 15.4-inch display, this is a good size to work with. So currently I have palettes on the left and right, and I still have a good amount of space to draw with, to work with. And if you increase the UI, the size of the UI to much bigger, or to get the text and the buttons to look bigger, you will still get a good amount of space to work with. So this 15.4-inch display is a good size for drawing. Generally speaking, I would recommend people buy a 15-inch pen display, if you have the budget of course, but otherwise you can still get a smaller tablet, a smaller pen display, a 13-inch to save some money. Okay, so I actually do not use the hotkeys by the side. When I'm drawing, my other hand is always on the keyboard because it's just easier for me. Because with the keyboard, I can have access to all my keyboard shortcuts. The pen is really sensitive. I'm barely applying any pressure just to create the drafting lines. So you can see as I just glance the pen lightly on the surface, I can get the very thin lines. So this pen is very sensitive. Actually, the performance of this pen is very similar to the previous model, which was released in 2019, the first model, the Artist Pro 15.6 Pro. For this model, they just updated the display to work with the X3 pen. So yes, the pen is more sensitive, but the previous pen was already pretty sensitive. Okay, let's put in the lines. You know what? Let's take a look at the lines. There are some diagonal lines. I think I'm drawing quite quickly, so you may not be able to see whether there is any diagonal line wobble. So let me just draw a bit slower. I'm going to use this solid pen with the solid line, just so you can see whether there is diagonal line wobble. Okay, so let's draw a diagonal line here. This is, I would say, quite straight. There is some pressure variance. So this is my normal speed. This is with minimal pressure. So this is very straight, very smooth. Straight as in it does not have wobble. Okay, yeah, the lines are able to taper quite smoothly. This is very, I would say, predictable performance from the pen. Okay, I probably should have created a much higher resolution file because as I zoom in now, I can see the pixelation. Okay, so I actually don't have many negative things to say about this pen display because it works as advertised. The pen performance you see here is going to be quite similar to other drawing apps such as Photoshop, Clip Studio, because the pen performance is consistent and predictable, so you will get the same pen performance with other drawing apps. Now, even though the line test shows some wobble and jitter, but when you're actually drawing with the pen, I do not see any wobble and jitter. This maybe should be wider. So let me just erase this. Now I'm not using the eraser at the back because it involves me turning the pen to the back. So I prefer to use keyboard shortcuts. Okay, I can join the line almost seamlessly. Let me just reduce the brush size. Okay, maybe it's better to reduce the brush size with the dial here on the side. So let me just reduce the brush size like this. Yeah, the dials, they do work, by the way. It's just that I just prefer to use my keyboard. So this pen display is currently selling at $305 US, and at this price point, I'll say it's quite worth it because, well, as you can see, the pen performance is quite good. The pen is sensitive, accurate. This pen display has been on for more than an hour or 2 hours now, and it does not feel warm. This part here is slightly warm, but it's not like hot. So you can definitely draw on this pen display for long periods of time without feeling discomfort. So the main downside of this pen display to me is, in order to achieve maximum brightness, it really depends on which OS and which driver version you use. This display does not have the OSD manual, so you cannot adjust the color settings, the display settings using OSD. This quick sketch is almost done. The workflow is very smooth. I did not experience any issues while testing this app, XPPen, and also with Clip Studio. Here's a look at another sketch that I have drawn with XPPen, and this sketch has more diagonal lines. This line here is wobbly because of my hand. There are diagonal lines here, here, here as well, here, here, and here. The diagonal lines are quite straight. Any wobble you see is really due to my hand. So let me just redraw this line. Yeah, so this is straight. Let's draw it at 45 degrees. This is also straight. So I did not have any issues when drawing this sketch as well. Alright, to conclude, this is a good pen display. Color support is good, pen performance is good. Having the hotkeys and the dial by the side is convenient. And having USB-C video support is an upgrade over the previous model. And this pen display can be powered by a single USB-C cable, so that is great for minimizing cable clutter. And at this price point, US $305, I would say this pen display is quite worth the money. It's a reasonable price for a good pen display.